But there will be accountability, and that's a promise that we have from God, and He does keep His promises. So there will be accountability for this and what they do. So I don't have to hold a grudge. I don't have to hate them, right? What good does that do me? If I hold on to that darkness, that hate, it contaminates me. And if I get contaminated, I contaminate the kids. And that's the last thing I want to do. They're too special, and they've had enough hate in their life.
No me hablen de respeto si no saben dar la mano. Yo sé bien quién es quién y lo tengo anotado. El que vive de mentiras no se mira reflejado y el que actúa como víbora termina envenenado.
Únete a nosotros mientras descubrimos la oscuridad detrás de los orfanatos de México y encontramos aquellos donde tu ayuda puede impactar la vida de un niño.
There's one thing about this journey that I didn't realize, and I still haven't fully realized, is the impact that it has on me emotionally. We spent years with these children and had doors closed on us, and to go back and just visit, even though we haven't been able to go inside, to go back and just all the memories start coming up, and all the times that we'd spent with them, all that starts bubbling up, and it doesn't make you feel happy because those good memories have been contaminated now, right? It's so you go there and you're like, oh, I remember, playing with the kids and, doing this and that, and you go there and you can't go in. You can't see them. They're on the other side of the wall. They're on the other side of the door. And the emotion, just to show up and they'd come running out and just give you a hug and be so excited. And that's gone. That's gone now. It doesn't exist anymore. Hate came in and contaminated what was good. And so, and the one orphanage, Morelia Home for Children, we're filming, and I got to see two kids. We're filming, and one was walking because they got a building on the other side of the street, and we got to see him, and that was so awesome. And man, there's so much. So they grow so quick. And then the girl that heard my voice and called through the window, and we got to talk to her. But what should have been like, oh, it's beautiful, I get to see her. She tells me that they lied to the kids. They told the kids that we could come, but we just didn't want to. Of course they can come. They'd ask for us. But they tell the kids we didn't want to see them. We didn't want to go. It's been, I don't know, 2 years, year and a half, something like that, maybe over 2 years now. And to think the kids have been living with that. Like, we've invested so much and they open their hearts to us, and vice versa. And to think that these people are so evil, they let hate guide them, that, and I've forgiven everyone. You have to forgive. You can't hold on to anything, because that's what Satan does, right? Hate him. Hate him. I used to remember a phrase in the church, hate the sinner. No, hate the sin, but love the sinner. It's the stupidest freaking thing, right? Because it's still hate. You're still hating. How about you just don't hate? Hate against evil is still hate. Hate against Satan is still hate. That's what he wants. He wants you to hate. It doesn't matter who it is. And so, the only way you can release that hate is forgiveness. It's the only way. I forgive Anna Laura, and I forgive her husband Steve for kicking us out of the orphanage. And I had to forgive him when I learned about the lie The lie that we weren't allowed, or that we were allowed to come back, but we just didn't want to. Wow. There's going to be accountability for all this. There's going to be accountability. God's not going to let this go forever. It feels like it. It feels like it's forever, right? It's definitely going to be all our lifetime. But there will be accountability, and that's a promise that we have from God, and He does keep His promises. So there will be accountability for this and what they do. So I don't have to hold a grudge. I don't have to hate them, right? What good's that do me? If I hold on to that darkness, that hate, it contaminates me. And if I get contaminated, I contaminate the kids. And that's the last thing I want to do. They're too special, and they've had enough hate in their life. They don't need to get it from somebody coming in from the outside. So I had to forgive them again because, that hurt. Like, man, how could you tell the kids that? I'm like, no, I'm not going to let hate creep in. I can't let hate creep in. I can't. It's too poisonous. It just destroys everything. And so we have to forgive. We have to forgive. We have to forgive everyone who's ever wronged us. We have to name it. We have to forgive them. And that's what I try to help with the kids, right? That's what we try to work with, right? Because if anybody's got a reason to hate in this world, it's these kids. And Satan doesn't waste a chance. He does not waste a chance to get in there. Hate your parents. Hate everyone for rejection, right? And so, we went to an orphanage the other day on this trip, one that's a really good one. And we served them pizza, and one of the girls was eating. And I'm like, I'm so used to everyone eating together, right? Like, we all wait for everyone. And she started eating. And I gave her a hard time. She was like 15 years old. And I said, well, what are you doing eating? What's going on? And God was using this. This was a moment. This is a teaching moment. This is what we do in these orphanages. And I was like giving her a hard time. And then and I realized they'd already prayed for the food, and they just kind of have, once it's prayed for, you can go ahead and eat. And I didn't realize that. I'm just not accustomed to that. And so I says, you know what? When I realized it, I went to her and I said, I made a mistake. I shouldn't have given you a hard time. I said, will you forgive me? And she went silent. And I said, and she just nods her head. And I said, can you tell me I forgive you? And she just, she couldn't get it out. She couldn't get it out. And she started crying. Right there in the dinner hall, everybody, she started crying. And when I finished serving everyone, I went and I sat down with her. And I said, will you be able to tell me that before I leave? Because that would be awesome for me. That would help. That would help. And she said, yeah. And what I had realized, and what we kind of talked through a little bit, she had never forgiven anyone in her life because no one had ever asked for forgiveness. No one. Everybody rejected her, and not one has ever came to her and said, I did wrong. Will you forgive me? So she had never had the opportunity to forgive, and it touched something in her. It touched something. And hate does not want you to forgive. Hate does not want you to release it. Because once you forgive, hate can be released. And man, did it touched her. And by the end of the day, I came up to her and I said, are you able to say that? And she says, I forgive you. And that was the first time she's ever said it in her life to someone. And that's what we do. That's what we do with these kids. That right there is God working in their life. Right? That doesn't come from me. That's God saying, forgiveness. She needs to be taught how to forgive. She needs to be shown how to forgive. Ask her for forgiveness, And that's just how God works, That's what's important to Him. And that's what we try to incorporate into our visits. That's what we try to be, is just, we're here to bless these kids. let your will be done with them, because he knows their pain. He knows what they're suffering through. I don't know. You know, she's a doctor, but she doesn't know either. And so, poor Marlene, I give her such a hard time about being a doctor that can't give me any prescriptions. I need antibiotics. I got to go to a real doctor. So, you know, it's like, what the heck, you know? But she's got a beautiful heart, and she helps these kids, and so that's what's important. That's what's important. So we end with forgiveness. Seems like a great way to end this.